We are being joined today by Max DeLuca. He has been a professional boxing judge for over 20 years. BoxRec lists him as scoring over 1,700 bouts, though as he's pointed out, it's more than that because some of the smaller fights don't show up there. You judged on the television series The Contender. You made an appearance in the Will Smith Ali movie.
I did, yes.
Yes, okay. And then in 2010, the WBC named him Judge of the Year. So we're going to start off. We've got some questions. I've got some questions. We're going to hear from Max, and then we can also turn to some questions from the class. How do you balance the criteria in judging a round, and in close rounds, what's often the deciding factor for you?
So you have the four criteria: effective punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, which we kind of started calling ring control, and then defense. So out of all that, though, it comes down to effective punching. If there's no effective punches being landed, you can go to effective aggressiveness. Who the aggressor is, who's trying to take the fight to the other guy. But there's somebody is landing the effective punches that do damage to the other fighter, that have an effect on the other, that are affecting his either it stops him in his tracks, he has to hold on, he's visibly hurt. I mean, those are and it's got to be in the scoring zone, of course, so you're looking at, you call them clean effective punches in the scoring zone. That's what you're looking for. I mean, they put in ring generalship, guy that controls the action. I mean, you still got to be landing punches to do that. And defense, of course, it's important to have good defense because you don't get hit, but you never win a round on defense. You're winning the round by landing the punches. So that's what it comes down to. I would have to say 95% comes down to effective punches in the round.
What's a common misperception about boxing judging?
There's a lot of them. I think, they think that we score the fights, that at the end of the fight, I say, fighter A is the winner, where we score rounds. Every round is its own fight. And, and a big people think that our scorecards should reflect the competitiveness of a fight. And it doesn't always happen that way. I mean, if fighter A is beating fighter B every single round, but every single round is a very, very close round, but you can't just start giving rounds to fighter B because he's putting up a good fight. You still got to give those rounds to fighter A. So if you have a 10-round fight and fighter A wins 10-9 every single round, at the end of the fight, you got to score 100-90. And people just go nuts when they hear that, and they boo, and they're like, how they don't understand how you can have such a close fight, but the scorecards be so wide. But we have no choice to score for who wins the round. So our scorecards are not always going to reflect the competitiveness of a fight. And in a way, we're victims to the scoring system. I mean, we didn't come up with it. We have to, go. If they put me as czar in boxing right now, I would change. The first thing I would do is change the scoring system. One thing I would do is add more judges. And so
go to 5 judges.
I think 5 would be good. I think you would throw out the odd score. So, and you just come up with one score. You don't have to have Max DeLuca scores this, Dave Moretti scores this. You just say the judges scored this, and you have a paper trail so they know everything's legit. But and then if one judge is constantly the odd man out, then you deal with him inside instead of the public humiliation that some judges have to go through. I mean, it's and because when it comes down to is when that happens, 90% of the time it's because the public doesn't understand the scoring system. So and to go on it, the champion doesn't you don't have to beat the champ. It's 2 guys fighting. The champion's no longer the champion when he enters the ring. And you have fighter A and fighter B. And so the challenger has just as good as a chance to win as the champion. The champion's not getting any benefit from us because he's the champion, if that makes sense. Yeah.
The other thing that I kind of just want to hear your response on is when, as always, the ringside announcers will say, "Well, the crowd is really responding to those punches, and that's going to sway the judges." How much does that sway the judges?
It does not. I mean, a good judge, it shouldn't. An experienced judge should not. I mean, I don't even hear I don't hear the crowd. Once in a while, what you hear is the cornermen once in a while, but they do try and try and persuade you, and you just kind of you ignore it or just kind of almost laugh to yourself because after the round's over, they're like, great round. And it's like their fighter obviously lost the round. They're just, I don't know if they think we're going to be persuaded by that, but a good judge won't. What was interesting though is during COVID, we did fights in the bubble and we had no crowd. And it was and so you could hear a lot more from the corners, from the fighters themselves, and the punches that landed were, I mean, I really enjoyed fights without the crowd just because it made it easier to hear that, you could feel the punches almost without the crowd there.
How would you say boxers during the round make their case? Are there sort of argumentative strategies? We talked about in the Marquez Vasquez fight, sort of coming in, that Angelo Dundee thing of stealing a round in the last, half minute, 10 seconds of a round. What are some argumentative strategies that you would see sort of happening with the fighters in the round?
Yeah, so and that is definitely one that Sugar Ray Leonard used to do. They all used to do it. The last 30 seconds, you just come on, and because it is human tendency just to remember what you saw last. So they do try and get in that last punch. That is one of their main strategies is to and you hear the corners always saying 30 seconds, and so then that's their key for the fighter to try and you want to do good at the last part of the round, because a lot of judges, if you don't know where you are in the round, you're going to pay attention to the last 30 seconds. So
how would you advise us, how would you advise fans to watch and judge rounds?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would turn the sound down first and foremost, and it's not that fun to watch a fight that way, but those announcers can influence you, and but because they always have a agenda, they have a fighter in the fight, or they start focusing on one fighter and they don't pay attention to what the other fighter's doing. And so it's very important to you got to make sure you watch both fighters and give them proper credit throughout the round. But so I would definitely do it that way. But what I suggest, besides just the fight criteria, one of the things we do now, which we've been doing for like 5 years, is it's not good enough just to say who won the round. You want to know who won the round and by how much. So we use terms close, moderate, and decisive. So after the round's over, if you say fighter A won the round, you want to say, was it a close round or a moderate round? So, and you should have that running total in your head. And it starts off even, and then fighter A gets a lead, he's close, he might build a lead to moderate, and then fighter B starts coming back, and then that lead shrinks. So if you're moderate, if you're at moderate, the guy can't really steal the round because it's just going to bring it too close. But if you're at close and then the other fighter comes on, then it can switch to him winning the round. And that's where it paid off for him to close at the end of the round. But if you have it decisive, he's got to do something really big to bring that all the way the other way back. So we have an app, and we score fights even when we're at home, and we turn these into the WBC runs it, and and they give us our results so we see how we compare to other judges. And it's very interesting because I might have it close and another judge has it decisive, and you're like, somebody's either moving way too slow or moving way too quickly. So to your class, I would, that's a good way to practice, and then you'll come up with the winner of the round if you're constantly saying, red corner's winning close, close. Okay, now blue corner's coming on. Now he's winning close. Okay, now blue corner's winning moderate. Now blue corner's winning decisive. And now, okay, red corner's coming back. Now it's back in the moderate range and the bell rings. So now you have blue corner winning 10-9 moderate. And if you watch every round like that, I mean, you'll get good at scoring fights. Yeah. And
Has there been a time where you like rewatch a fight and realize that the scoring that you had for the fight was either wrong or you just maybe don't agree with it, watching it later on a broadcast?
yes. And the answer is yes. Because we don't get a chance to review it. After the round's over, we got to just turn our scorecards in. And a lot of times a fight looks different on TV than it does, in the front row. And that's what I've realized. So it doesn't always help me to go back and watch the round to try and, legitimize my score that way. But I do it all the time. And sometimes I'm like, well, I don't know, watching it again, I could see the other guy winning the round. Hopefully it's not like a blowout where I'm like, wow, what was I thinking? Most of the time it's, yeah, I could see that, I had this guy winning, but it was a close round and now I have the other guy winning the round. So yeah, it does happen.
Like what was the best fight you've ever like judged?
So yeah, the Israel Vasquez and Rafael Marquez, their third fight, it actually was the fight of the year, and then they later on named it the fight of the decade. And it was one of those fights where each round they were just punishing each other for 12 rounds, and it was one you just had to focus on, and you couldn't lose concentration for a second because you didn't want to, every punch really really meant something, and it was just a great fight.
How, I guess I kind of got my question answered, but it's like, how much do you communicate with other judges? Is that more before the fight, after the fight, or not at all?
Yeah. So during the fight, not at all. And then after the fight, we always talk, and whether we agreed with each other or didn't agree with each other, we always talk and try and see where the other guy was coming from, and never accusing or mad at the other judge, but just you want to pick his brain and see, maybe I missed something during that fight, or was it just one of those close fights that we just, where each, it came down to like one or two punches and he saw it one way and I saw it the other, because we are on three different sides. So you are going to see, you got three different angles. So you're not going to see the fight exactly the same all the time.
I just want to know what the biggest like change or evolution in the sport of professional boxing, like what you've seen during your entire career.
That's a good question. So, and it's not always good, but there is a lot. It seems like there's more hands in the cookie jar these days, where there's so many promoters. Like people always say UFC is better than boxing now, and I think one of the reasons it is, I'm not saying it is, but if it is, it's because Dana White's kind of got control of the whole thing. So if there's two good fighters and they're at the same weight, they're going to fight each other. He's going to make them fight each other. But here you got all these promoters, and before it was like Don King and Bob Arum, but now, it just seems like you got more and more, and they want to save their fighter and they don't want to fight. And so that's kind of where we are in boxing, where you have so many promoters that, and so you don't always get the best matchups in boxing anymore. Another thing I think has changed is amateur boxing. I mean, when I grew up, I knew all the Olympians. I mean, all the guys that came out, Holyfield and Riddick Bowe. I watched them all in the amateurs. Now, amateur boxing in United States is just not as popular. So you don't get the professional fighters coming from United States, which a lot. So you do get a lot of fighters from other countries that are fighting here now, a lot more, but a lot of them we don't know who they are. So even though they're great fighters, they don't get the publicity they should, really. So that is up to the local commissioner, and they should take experienced judges. They should have their in California we had to have I went through 2 years of training before they let me judge a fight. So each commission is different though, but they, like Nevada, just they bring in judges from all over for each fight. They bring in guys that have the most experience. And
What's the pipeline? Is it a good pipeline for creating new experienced judges?
so it was kind of strange when when I got licensed in '98. They did recruit. They actually opened it to the public. There was a public announcement, and because all their judges were in their 60s, and they needed new judges. So we actually had a class that we had 40 people in the class, and they only took 11 of us. And so, but that was the only time they did that in California. Now they do recruit guys from the amateurs if they need officials, or if an official is has so much experience in the amateurs and he's wants to go to the next level, like they give him a shot. But usually it's the individual that's seeking out the commission, not the commission seeking out individuals.
What got like you into wanting to become a judge?
Yeah, so I grew up just going to fights. My dad was the ringside physician, so he would sew up the fighters after the fights. He'd tell the referee to stop the fight if the guy was taking a beating. And I just grew up in California going to every fight I could with him. And then in my 20s, like I said, they had that public announcement, and since I was kind of involved, I knew about it, and I went through their training, and was just right timing to get licensed.
So who decided like which match you are going to judge, or when can you tell, like can you know like which match you're going to judge?
Yeah, so usually the state commission assigns the fights, and like when I was in Nevada last weekend, I didn't know what fights I was judging till I got there. So that was just the day of the event. You show up and they give you your there's 8 fights on the card, and they give you your scorecards, and I had 3 fights out of the 8. So that's how it goes in Nevada. California, like a lot of you do have the different boxing organizations. You have the WBC, the WBO. I was a member, still am, of the WBC. So a lot of the commissions, like Nevada, or not Nevada, but California and Texas, will, if there's a WBC fight, they will actually go to the WBC and say, which officials do you want to work this event? And if they're good officials, they will assign them to the event.
Are there consequences if a judge like constantly has a different score?
Yes, there are. And then there should be, and there is. I mean, so being that's kind of how we go, as being the odd man out. If there's 3 judges and 2 go one way and I'm always going the other way, but you can score a fight where you could be in the majority every single round, but have a different score than the other 2 judges. So even though they're ripping on you for your score, when you look at the majority per round, you actually were the one that scored it, the most consistent. So it's kind of an internal thing more than the public coming down onto the judge, and they're always crying for this judge should never judge again. But it's more looking at it internally round per round to see exactly how that judge came up with the score he did. And if you are the odd man out, yeah, you should be held accountable for it.
All right. Well, Max, this has been great. This has been very helpful, very informative. Thank you again. Please join me in thanking Max DeLuca.
Thank you, Dr. McDermott. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Com 495 Judge of the Year. So you can put that up on your wall too. All right. Well, thank you very much and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate it. Thanks.